Hey everyone, Toby here doing part 2 of my self-found sorceress, and I'm picking up where I left off, so that's just after killing Diablo and realizing that I'm not ready yet for Act 5 because this is the point where monsters start hitting. So I decided to do some Mephisto runs just to get some experience, get a couple of upgrades to my gear, and yeah, get ready for Act 5. And as the footage is running, I'll continue with this introduction, basically what are the next steps. So, just like I mentioned, this is the point where monsters start hitting, so you need to start caring about more than, how fast you can run from point A to point B. You need to start caring about your faster cast rate breakpoint, your faster hit recovery, your resistances, and all of that. So keep your eyes on a couple of rune words, which will be a huge help. One of them would be Spirit in your sword, level requirement 25. Another one would be Lore, level requirement 27 for your helm. Those two are amazing budget options. Third would be Insight, level requirement 27 for your mercenary. This is not as mandatory because it's only convenience. It doesn't boost your survivability by any means, but still it's a really amazing rune word. So yeah, keep your eyes on these rune words. At the very least, have the base items prepared. For something like Lore, just go and shop, perhaps even as low as Act 1, maybe Act 2. You can get offered, normal socketed items. For Spirit, it's a bit harder, but at Act 4, swords can start dropping with 4 sockets. Because swords need to be of item level 26 to 40 or at least 26 to be able to have 4 sockets. For Inside, I believe you can get the base item even in normal difficulty as well, but perhaps it's a good idea to wait for a nightmare item, exceptional version. But that's kind of beside the point. Perhaps you won't be able to find all the runes required for these rune words because you definitely need quite a few of them, and they don't drop as frequently in normal. So at the worst case scenario, once you get to Nightmare, just do a bit of Nightmare Countess runs and you'll be able to find the runes in no time. So with that said, I think we can continue with the footage with my hammered in sorceress story. Hopefully you'll find this video more informative than my previous one, and if you do, please do leave a like or a comment. And if you don't, please do leave a comment. I mean, any feedback is appreciated as always. And with that, I wish you enjoy watching this, and let's just jump right back into the action. So, I did some Mephisto runs, maybe 10 or 20 before continuing into Act 5. I found a couple of pretty awesome items. One would be this Hawkmail with the Cannot Be Frozen mod. It's amazing for your mercenary, definitely not for you. Keep on using stealth until you can get something really better. But for Merc, it's an amazing unique item because Cannot Be Frozen is pretty hard to come by, and it just boosts his survivability significantly. I also find a rare belt and rare gloves, both of them pretty amazing. All the mods I'm really looking for. Essentially dual resistances, a faster hit recovery on your belt, as well as magic find on your gloves, and in general, gloves, belts, and boots will be one of the primary sources for your resistances, because it's pretty easy for rare boots to spawn with something like 40 dual resistances. I mean, combined, like 20, for example, 20 cold resistances and 20 fire resistances. That's already a pretty significant boost, and those resistances can spawn up to like 80. You can get like 40 cold res, 40 fire res. So that's pretty amazing. It's applied similarly to your belt and gloves. So definitely keep on identifying every single rare pair of gloves, boots, or rare belt, and you will find them eventually. Worst case scenario, do try and gamble them. For gambling, I do recommend getting your hands on a rune word called Edge. It's pretty easy to get. Just for the base item, you can just go into Act 1 normal difficulty and just shop it. In a couple of shop resets, you'll be definitely able to find it. And it does reduce vendor prices by 15%, so whenever you're gambling, and in normal difficulty it's kind of a bit harder to come by enough gold, so whenever you're gambling in normal difficulty, those 15%, and I mean whenever you're gambling overall, those 15% discount will save you a lot of money in the long run. Yeah, so with that said, I move on into Act 5, and of course I do complete the Lerzuk quest. And when it comes to Lerzuk quest, it's important to note that you should not be using the quest rewards to get the base items for your runewords. By no means do not use them. Same applies for Charcy quest. Keep both of these rewards up until late hell difficulty, and use Charcy quest only when your character level is decently high, and imbue something like a high item level circlet or diadem or tiara to get a helm that could be as good as Shaco. For Lerzuk quest, use it for your high-endish gear, unique items that really need that one socket. For your rune word bases, use only cube recipes, or just try to find it, laying on the ground with the exact number of sockets you need. It might take a bit of time, but it's definitely worth it. Right, so with that said, I also complete second quest in Act 5, and the quest reward allows me to make another rune word, which is Ancient's Pledge, which gets my resistances up to 75. And that's an amazing feeling for hardcore. Other than that, I do Drifter's Cavern or something, and then find a soul rune, so that allows me to make my lore. Pretty significant boost to my damage, and some lightning rest, some mana after kill. Amazing rune word overall. Ancients shouldn't be too big of a problem with Blizzard, they should be quite easily doable, and really the same applies to Bale or Bale's minions. Unfortunately, Bale doesn't really drop me anything good, but whatever. Once I finish with that, I move on to Nightmare immediately, pretty much. I do Den of Evil and a bit of Cold Plains, and I get level 30. So this is where things really start getting interesting for a sorceress. And that's because you get access to the most amazing spell in probably this game, Frozen Orb. It doesn't need any synergies, to be able to pretty much kill everything on player's 8 in hell difficulty. So the moment you reach level 30, what you do next is go ahead and respec. Of course, level up all the prerequisites, and this is where stuff gets a bit more complicated, because you want to leave some points unspent, because at every single additional level from now on till like level 40, you want to level up simultaneously Frozen Orb and Cold Mastery. Get your Cold Mastery to up to maybe like level 10 or so, because ideally with items you want to have your Cold Mastery at level 17, if I'm not mistaken. Basically at the point where you reduce your opponent's cold resistance by 100%. Because most of the mobs in hell difficulty will have 0 cold resistances, and the lowest they can have is minus 100. So anything above 100 is less effective than points before that. Of course, some minions do have increased cold resistances. A lot of them have 50 cold res. Some bosses have like 75. I think it goes as high as 95, but that might be just Diablo clone. So essentially anything above 100 is nice to have, but it's less efficient. So your goal is to get your cold mastery up to level 17. Since at this point you probably don't know what kind of gear you'll have later on, I'll probably just spend like up to 10 points into cold mastery and leave it at that. And once you're done with the cold mastery, then continue maxing out frozen orb. And once you're done with frozen orb, then you start spending points in your fire skills. Now it's important to note that, if I'm not mistaken, Meteor actually increases your leveling up. Meteor actually increases your fireball's damage more than leveling up Fireball. I might be mistaken on this one, but from what I briefly checked, it seems to be the case. Regardless, your Fireball early on damage will be absolutely insignificant. So maxing out Meteor after Frozen Orb actually makes a lot of sense. It will be hard for you to hit those meteors properly at the beginning, but once you get more used to it, plus you will spend a lot of time farming something like Mephisto, and farming Mephisto in Nightmare or Hell difficulty, Meteor is just far superior to either Frozen Orb or Fireball. So it makes a lot of sense to max Meteor first. So for the skills, it's quite simple. Get your Cold Mastery up to level 10 as soon as you can. Get your Frozen Orb maxed out first. Then put all the points into Meteor, then Fireball, then Fire Mastery. I believe. Yeah, that's the correct order. That's it for the skills. As for the stats, pretty much the usual. Since I'm still in Nightmare, I don't want to spend any points into Dexterity, and I will only be spending points into Dexterity if I get my hands on a Storm Shield, because with any other shield it just doesn't make sense to go for max block. But if you do get your hands on later on Storm Shield, if you're playing with Pluggy, just redistribute your points. If you're not playing with Pluggy, you're playing like original, just go ahead and respec and go for at least 50% block. Probably going max block isn't worth it because your health pool will be left too small, but getting up to 50% isn't that hard, and it offers amazing value really. So yeah, don't spend anything into Dexterity unless you get Storm Shield. Spend quite a bit into your Strength, because you will need about 100 points in Strength in pretty much any case, unless you get Torch, Annie, and Thunder Gods. Then you can probably spend less, but in every single other case you will need to spend at least 100 points in Strength, and the rest go in Vitality. So yeah, that's not too complicated, I believe. And yeah, I'll wrap this video up just after respecking into Frozen Orb. Next comes, breezing through Nightmare, just one-shotting everything with Frozen Orb. One of the most fun places to be at with, Meteorb Sorc is Nightmare. And yeah, that's it for this video. As always, I hope you enjoyed it. Please do leave a like and a comment if you have any suggestions or something nice or the opposite horrible to say. I'd love to hear your thoughts if you found this content enjoyable, informative, etc, etc. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed watching this, and I'll see you guys in part 3 of my self-found sorceress. Cheers!